Good morning, students. Welcome to the class. I'm Anjali Dwivedi, your English teacher. Today we are going to take up the chapter The Last Lesson by Alphonse Daudet. Before we proceed to the explanation, let me give you an introduction of the chapter. The story of the last lesson is set in the days of the Franco-Prussian War that was fought in 1870-71, in which France was defeated by Prussia. Prussia then consisted of the present Germany, Poland, and parts of Austria. The Prussians, after defeating France, wanted to acquire and rule over not only the territory of France, but also over the minds and heart of the people. In this story, French districts of Alsace and Lorraine have passed into Prussian hands. According to an order from Berlin, French was no longer to be taught in the schools of Alsace and Lorraine. Instead, German would be taught. The story renders a touching and emotional adieu to the identity of the people of France who were being deprived of not only their political freedom but also their identity, that is, their language French. Let's discuss the theme. The first theme is that the conquerors inflict pain on the people of a territory by taking away the right to study or speak their own language. The other theme of the chapter may be the human tendency of procrastination or postponing things. The natives of France realize their folly of not giving due importance to the study of French in their school days. Now let me introduce you to the main characters of the story. M. Hamel, the French teacher. Franz, a small boy and the narrator of the story. So let's discuss the main points of the story. Franz that day is late for school and dreaded a scolding from the teacher, M. Hamel, as he had not learnt his lesson on participles. He did not want to study, and he also disliked his teacher. There were many temptations on his way to school. He thought of running away and spending the day outside, as the day was warm and bright, the birds were chirping, and he could see the Prussian soldiers drilling. All much more tempting than the rules of participles. But he resisted the temptation and hurried to school. When he reaches the school, he finds a crowd in front of the bulletin board. That bulletin board, which was the source of all the bad news for the last 2 years. What was the scene in the classroom like that day? Usually there was a great hustle and bustle every day in school. But that day, everything was still, as quiet as Sunday morning. Many surprises awaited Franz. First surprise, M. Hamel was dressed in his formal dress, the dress that he used to wear usually on the inspection days. That day, he did not scold Franz for being late. What was the other surprise? He saw the villagers of occupying the back benches in the class. Let's see what M. Hamel's startling revelation was. He says, "This is the last lesson of French. The order has come from Berlin to teach only German in the schools of Alsace and Lorraine." These words were a thunderclap to Franz. He was pleasantly surprised, and those words of M. Hamel just like a thunder to him. He was very happy. But very soon he realized that he was sorry for not learning his lessons and whiling away his time in activities like seeking birds' eggs, going sliding on the Saar. That time he understood why the villagers had gathered in the class. They were there to thank the teacher M. Hamel for his 40 years of services. Also, as a sign of repentance for not having gone to school, and as a mark of respect for the country which was no longer theirs. The class began. It was now Franz's turn to recite the rule of participle. But poor Franz, he could not do so. He was so ashamed and he felt guilty. But to his surprise, the very strict teacher M. Hamel did not scold him that day. He only commented on man's nature of postponing things. For the lack of learning the language, he blames the parents, children, blames himself as well. He says that the parents did not want to send the children to school. Instead, they wanted them to work at the mill or on the farms for money. He himself sent the children to water his plants, or when he wanted to go fishing, he would declare it a holiday. So he says, we've all a great deal to reproach ourselves with. But then he goes on to praise his language. He says, French is the most beautiful language in the world, the clearest, the most logical. He also asks the people to safeguard it and never forget it. Now M. Hamel wanted to teach them everything in one stroke. First, he gives them a lesson in grammar, followed up with a lesson in writing. What was the scene in the classroom at the time of the last lesson? There was pin-drop silence. Everyone, from the village elders to the little ones present in the class, all of them listened very attentively. And to his surprise, Franz found the lesson very easy. He instantly develops a liking for his teacher. The teacher gives them some copies to them in which it was written Franz, Alsace, and the entire class is busy in learning. While the class is going on, Franz looks at the pigeons on the roof. Pigeons were cooing, and so he thinks to himself, will they make them sing in German? That means the Germans had imposed their language on the people, on the humans. Will they be able to make the pigeons coo in German? And after that, M. Hamel delivers his last lesson in history. The classroom was emotionally charged up. At the end of the lesson, M. Hamel was so overwhelmed with emotions that he could not speak a word. He writes on the board, Vive la France, that is, long live France. Unable to utter a word, he made a gesture to the people with his hand and dismisses the school. So, this was the story of the lesson, the last lesson. So, we see, children, in the story how the Germans inflicted pain on the French by imposing their own language on them and taking away their right to study or to speak their own language. So we can say that this lesson also speaks of linguistic chauvinism. That is, the belief that one's own language is superior to all the other languages. So there are some words also, the meanings of the difficult words are given. You can see the page numbers also are mentioned. So on page number 2 we have dread, that means fear. Draft means conscription for military service. Page number 3, counted on, that is depended. Unison means in one voice. Rapping means hitting against something. Commotion is a noisy confusion. Page number 4, you'll find this thumbed at the edges. That means of pages to crumpled corners. Primer is an elementary school book. Thunderclap, sharp and loud like thunder. Sar is a river in northeastern France. Cranky means strange, bad-tempered, word that has been used for M. Hamel in the chapter. Reproach you'll find on page number 5, that means blame or express disapproval. Page number 8, you'll find this word angelus. It is a prayer song in church, starting of which is marked by ringing of a bell. So I've given you the meanings of some difficult words which appear in the text. You'll write the meanings in the book itself. I'll also give you a worksheet of short answer questions and prose extract from the chapter. So till then, keep studying and I'll meet you again with the next chapter.